She leaned against the kitchen counter like we were talking about, vacation plans. "I'm giving you two choices," she said. Her arms were folded, her chin tilted up, and she had this calm, polished look on her face like, this was supposed to impress me. "You can either accept that I want to explore something with him, or just stay out of the way while I do." I stared at her, waiting for the punch line. When it didn't come, I actually laughed quietly, not because it was funny, but because it was so far removed. Moved from the woman I thought I married come again. I said. She sighed, like I was already being difficult. "I don't want this to be a fight. Okay, I'm being honest. I'm trying to handle this maturely. I'm not sneaking around. I'm giving you the opportunity to evolve with me." That's when I realized she'd rehearsed this probably in the mirror, maybe even with someone coaching her. That little line, "evolve with me," was too smooth, too perfectly placed. I watched her as she talked, her hands gesturing gently, her voice often like she was telling a bedtime story. "People in our generation are rethinking what marriage means," she continued. "Monogamy isn't always natural. You know that, right?" I didn't answer. I just leaned back in the chair listening. I've been talking to people, reading, listening to podcasts. And it's helped me understand that what I want, it's not weird, it's not betrayal, it's expansion there. It was, again, another word polished until it meant nothing. Expansion. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I knew if I spoke right then, it wouldn't be calm. "Eric, this isn't just physical." She added, voice even gentler. "Now he and I connect intellectually, emotionally. He understands me in ways that well, it's not a criticism, but I've grown, and I don't want to shrink myself back down to fit into who we used to be." She hadn't said his name yet, but I knew exactly who she meant. Her boss, Jonal, 42, founder of some minimalist urban tech firm with exposed brick walls and beer taps in the office, the kind of guy who wore all birds, drank mushroom coffee, and called everyone brother. He shook your hand like he was, promising to introduce you to God himself. I'd met him once briefly at their launch event. He gave me the kind of smile you reserve for a valet or an intern who just dropped your espresso. "He makes me feel awakened," she said, barely above a whisper. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just an impulse. This was a fantasy, a polished, curated monologue she'd likely been building for weeks. Every word carefully chosen to make her the pioneer and me the stone tablet. Still, I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I didn't throw my glass like some dramatic stereotype. I just stood up and walked out of the kitchen, down the hall, and into the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and stared at myself in the mirror. My face didn't look angry, didn't even look hurt. It looked focused because something shifted in me. Right then, I could feel it in my spine, like a breaker had flipped. I wasn't going to give her the reaction she wanted. I wasn't going to let her be the one holding the moral compass. She thought this was a negotiation. She had no idea I'd already made my choice. She came to bed that night like nothing happened, like we'd had a reasonable discussion about rearranging the furniture or switching cable providers. She even tried to reach for my hand like some leftover reflex. I let her. I needed her to think she still had power, that she'd caught me in one of those classic husband traps, too passive, too stunned to act, too comfortable to walk away. She was wrong. All of it was wrong. Over the next few days, she started treating me like some project that needed deprogramming. She'd show me articles, send me podcast clips, open marriage, success stories. She said things like, "If you love me, you'll grow with me, and this doesn't have to be a loss, it can be an upgrade for both of us." I nodded, smiled when appropriate, said, "I'll think about it more times than I could count," all while keeping my eyes open, watching, listening, not just to her, but to the way she stopped lying. That was the key. She wasn't covering anything up. She wasn't sneaking around. She was doing it all in plain sight because, in her mind, there was nothing wrong. She was free, evolved, enlightened. She wasn't cheating. She was expanding. And me, I was just the old furniture. She hadn't hauled out of the house yet, but she would. Soon in the meantime, I started building option 3. She thought I was coming around. That's what made it easy. The more agreeable I seemed, the more confident she got. She stopped editing herself around me, started dropping names, dropping hints, floating timelines, like it was a shared vision we were building. I didn't argue. I played the role of conflicted, but trying the guy doing late-night research, listening to her podcast links, nodding thoughtfully while she talked about sexual autonomy and how traditional marriage was a patriarchal prison sentence. I even faked a few reflective sighs, just enough to make her think the brainwashing was working. It wasn't in reality. I was installing a surveillance app on her phone while she was in the shower. A small silent thing, just a ghost in the background. It didn't record anything illegal. It didn't track location in a way I couldn't explain. It just mirrored her calendar, her text logs, and any notes she stored in the cloud, and it gave me everything. Let me be clear, I didn't do it out of jealousy. Not exactly. I did it because I needed the truth, not the curated version she was feeding me. I needed to see who she really was when she thought I was already conquered, and what I saw made my chest tighten in that way. That's not quite pain, but worse. Jonah, her boss, had her saved in his phone as wife, too. She had him saved as my becoming. That alone could have ended it, but I wanted more than closure. I wanted clarity. Their texts were smug, self-important, philosophical, sure, but underneath it all, their tone was giddy like two kids. Sneaking candy after bedtime, so are we good for next weekend? Yep, he's softening. I told him I needed the space for a personal retreat, and he actually said he understood. Can you believe that next weekend, a name I didn't recognize was listed in her calendar, RKM Guest House. Under it, a single line, temporary stay until things shift. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just planning a fling, she was planning a relocation, a trial separation wrapped in euphemism. No confrontation, no legal paperwork, just a slow fade into someone else's bed, and eventually someone else's life. She was going to leave without leaving. She was going to try both lives, unlike outfits, see which one fit better, and come back. If she didn't like the stitching, she made her move the following. Thursday, we were sitting on the couch, and she casually mentioned she'd be doing a short-term offsite project with Jonah and some of the creative strategy team. It's immersive. She said, a little retreat, SLRE. You know how these startups operate everything. It's all hands and sometimes hands off. She winked when she said that last part. I pretended to laugh. Sounds cool. I said, you want help packing? She blinked, caught off guard for a second, then smiled. Actually, yeah, that'd be great. I helped her fold clothes, watched her pick out her casual but sexy outfits. She threw in her favorite perfume and paused like she was waiting for me to say something bitter or angry. I didn't. I smiled, Uke, kill it. I said, show them how expansion really looks. She kissed my cheek. That means a lot. I think she genuinely believed I was proud of her. That night after she left, I opened my laptop. Everything was saved. The texts, the itinerary, the audio snippets I'd captured through the Home Assistant when she'd taken a call while I was supposedly out, and in one of those messages, a voice I recognized, but didn't expect Jamie, her best friend. At first, I thought she was just helping smooth things over, coaching her through the lie, but the tone, the laughter, the details it was. Clear, you sure he bought it? Jamie said, totally. My wife replied, God, I feel like I'm on fire right now, like I'm finally living for me. You are. Jonah is obsessed, by the way. Oh, I know you would know, right? Hey, we all expand in different directions. I sat there staring at the waveform as it played back. Her best friend was also sleeping with the same man. Jonah had his own little evolved ecosystem where loyalty was a joke and intimacy was a team sport. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a network. I didn't lose it. I didn't rage or cry or drink or throw things. Instead, I backed everything up, organized it, categorized it. Then I wrote a short, polite message to one person who actually mattered in all this. Jonah's wife. I didn't attach files, not yet. I just introduced myself, mentioned a few overlapping dates, and let her know I had some information she might find helpful. Then I clicked send, shut the laptop, and went to bed. I slept better that night than I had in months because now I had leverage by Friday morning. Her side of the closet looked cleaner, not empty, just neater, a little more curated, like she'd picked her favorites and left the rest as an afterthought. It reminded me of the way people clean their desks when they're not sure if they're coming back to work. She left a post-it on the bathroom mirror before heading out gone for a few days. Don't wait up. Don't stress. I love you just differently. Now, there it was again. Carefully weaponized language. Not cruel, not blunt, just vague enough to shield her from accountability. Everything was always justified with her. Now, it wasn't infidelity. It was freedom, not abandonment, just transition. But she didn't know I'd already stowed being her safety net. She thought she was balancing between two options. She didn't realize option 3 was already in motion. The first step wasn't legal. It wasn't even loud. It was practical. I pulled out 3 large moving boxes, labeled them clearly closet desk books. I filled them carefully, not to punish, just to clarify. Nothing broken, nothing missing, just packed. Her mail was sorted and set aside. Her favorite coffee mug, washed and wrapped wedding photos from the hallway, were removed and laid gently in a folder. I changed nothing dramatic, just enough so that when she came back, she'd feel it, that low L tremor in the chest, when you know a chapter is closed, but you're the last one to notice. Then I scheduled a meeting with the realtor quietly, just to evaluate options. It wasn't a threat. I wasn't kicking her out. I was just making sure the foundation she assumed was stable had already shifted. Meanwhile, Jana's wife responded. Her reply was short, calm, way too calm. Thank you for this. You're not the first. You won't be the last, but you might be the last to stay silent. We had a 15-minute call later that night. No tears, no emotional outbursts, just 2 strangers comparing notes and dates, like we were reviewing spreadsheets. She'd been documenting his affairs for years. Never had concrete names. I gave her one, actually 2 1/3 if you count, Jamie. She asked me one question near the end. You still want to save it? I thought about it for a long moment before I answered no. I want her to see the fire she lit from the outside. She didn't respond, just said she had what she needed and hung up back at home. I stayed quiet, didn't talk to friends, didn't post cryptic updates or fish for advice. Instead, I watched the hours pass, monitored her phone logs. She texted me once, said she hoped I was reflecting and letting go of the old model. What she didn't know is that I'd let go of her days ago. She wasn't returning to the man she left. She'd be coming home to a stranger, and her little arrangement with Jonah. It wasn't just a fantasy anymore. It was a footprint, a trail, a receded roadmap of lies and betrayal. The best part, she didn't see it coming, not because I was sneaky, but because she didn't believe I could be. She thought she'd taken my spine when she took my trust. What she really took was my silence, and silence is a funny thing. It can feel like surrender, but in the right hands, it's just calm before precision. The night before she was supposed to come back, I poured myself a drink and stood by the window watching the neighborhood wind down. I didn't feel angry or broken or jealous. I felt clear for the first time in months. I understood exactly what I needed to do, and more importantly, what I no longer had to tolerate. The charade was over. All I had to do now was let her walk back into the mess she made thinking she still owned the place. Let her see the photos were gone. Let her see the boxes stacked neatly in the hallway. Let her see. My posture had changed, my eyes, my tone. Let her see that the rules were different. Now let her try to negotiate. When option 3 was already signed, sealed and waiting at the front door, she walked in like she still lived here, rolling suitcase behind her oversized cardigan, draped over her shoulders, hair swept back like she just stepped out of some breezy Airbnb retreat. She even brought that artificial stillness with her, the kind you were after cheating on someone, but telling yourself it was for the greater good. I heard the door open from upstairs, didn't rush down. I wanted her to absorb the house before she saw me, the missing photos, the boxed up memories, the sudden emptiness of shared space. She noticed, babe. She called out the tone, still so casual, like we were married in a different language now, like we just needed a day or two to recalibrate. When I stepped into the room, she gave me a half smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Probably could. I'm home. She said. I looked at her for a long second before replying, no, you're visiting. She blinked what? I nodded toward the boxes. You find everything labeled. If anything's missing, let me know. I kept the expensive heels and second chance journal separate, just in case you wanted to expand somewhere else. That's when her face changed, not anger, not guilt, confusion. You're serious? She asked. You said you were processing. I was. I cut in, and now I'm done. She crossed her arms like she had in the kitchen that day, tried to reset the power dynamic with posture, but it didn't work anymore. Eric, she said, stepping forward, lowering her voice like she was diffusing a child. I thought we were working through this. I thought you understood what I needed. I stepped back. You don't get to reframe this as a Shar journey. I said you left to sleep with your boss and told me it was evolution. You lied about where you were going, who you were going with, and how long it would be. That's not growth. That's a cover charge for betrayal. Her jaw tightened. I didn't lie. You called it a project, a retreat, a team-building immersion. I watched you pack lingerie and perfume for your creative strategy team. Come on. She faltered. Okay, so maybe I wasn't honest about everything, but I didn't cheat. You said you were open, D. I never said I was open. I snapped. I was quiet. That's not the same thing. Her voice rose. You could have told me you were uncomfortable. I didn't need to. I said you already knew. You just didn't care. That hit harder than I expected. She looked away, blinking faster now, chest rising and falling like she was trying to steady herself. I didn't want to hurt you, she said softly, but you did repeatedly, and not just with him. She froze. That was my C. You really think you were the only one expanding? I asked. You think I wouldn't notice the calls to Jamie? The way she started coaching you through the plan? How the two of you sounded like you were prepping for a TED Talk on betrayal? Her eyes widened. You listened to everything, every smug word, including the part where Jonah told you he liked that I was so domesticated I'd never fight back. She turned pale. I saw the guilt finally arrive, too late, too small. And you know what the funniest part is, I added? You weren't even exclusive in your cheating. You were just one of his little spiritual partners. Guess who else was warming his bed? She didn't answer, Jamie. I said that broke her. She took a step back. No, she wouldn't. She told me. She told you what she needed to, so you'd keep being useful. She played you just like you did. You thought you were building something enlightened. But all you really built was a playlist of justifications for people who never loved you. She sat down, couldn't even hold herself up anymore. Her hands were shaking. Now, Eric, I said you don't get to explain. You made your choices. Now you get your boxes and your silence. She wiped at her eyes. Please, can we talk about this tomorrow? Just not like this. Please, I think Jonah's wife already started the conversation for us. I said her head shot up, what she knows. I said flatly everything. You're not the first, but you might be the last to surprise her. Her lip trembled. You told her I didn't tell her. I said I showed her for the first time. She didn't have a reply. Just open silence and a 1,000-yard stare. I let it sit. Then I turned, walked to the door, and opened it wide. You wanted choices, I said. This one's yours. I didn't hear from her for a week. No calls, no texts, just silence. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. She packed her things that night, took what she could carry, left the rest. I kept it all boxed. The guest room, labeled and untouched, the house felt better without her in it, quieter. Yes, but not lonely, just honest. That was a new feeling. The reckoning came. A week later, I got the invite from her sister, an unexpected text, asking me to stop by her parents' house for a conversation. The tone was pleasant civil, but I knew what it really meant. They were circling the wagons. I almost declined, but something in me said it needed to happen, not for them, for me. Her parents lived 20 minutes away in one of those curated cul-de-sacs with identical mailboxes and an O that cared more about lawn symmetry than human decency. When I arrived, the whole crew was there, her mom, her dad, her sister, and of course her. She looked smaller, somehow diminished, not broken, just stripped of all that borrowed confidence. She used to wear light armor. Her father spoke. First, we just want to understand, he said, because from what we've heard, you blindsided her. You kicked her out without a conversation. Her mother nodded. Marriage is work, not a contract. You shred. The second things get difficult. And then her sister added, voice dripping with that too polite condescension. You were always is kind of traditional, Eric, but maybe if you listened more, supported her evolution, things wouldn't have escalated. I didn't react right away. I just sat there listening to them, rewrite history in real time. Then I pulled out my phone. I didn't play the recordings. I didn't show them screenshots or videos. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened a folder of photos, dozens of images I'd quietly taken over the past few months, one of her standing at the front door, suitcase in hand, grinning while texting Jonah, one of her calendar with RKM guest house, underlined and color-coded, one of the post-it notes she left behind, I love you just differently now. Then I opened my notes app and read aloud, a message she sent to Jamie. He's either too weak to stop me or too loyal to walk. Either way, this is freedom. I set the phone down. I didn't blindside her. I said she spent weeks planning how to disappear while keeping the benefits of staying. She didn't ask for understanding. She asked for permission to humiliate me with style. Her father cleared his throat. People make mistakes. She didn't trip and fall into another man's bed. I interrupted. She drafted an itinerary, booked lodging, bought lingerie, recruited her best friend, spent days texting about how exciting it felt to reinvent betrayal as self-care. I leaned forward slightly, and she only regrets it now because the man she gambled everything on was also sleeping with the friend she trusted most. Her castle was built on quicksand, and I refused to drown just so she could pretend it was a hot tub. The room went quiet. Her mother folded her arms. So you're done. Then I looked at my wife. She didn't speak, didn't plead. She just stared at the floor, tears gathering but never falling. Yes, I said, I'm done with being the villain in a story I didn't write. I'm done carrying the weight. While everyone else experiments with who they want to be, I stood up. You wanted to understand, now you do. Then I turned to leave. As I reached the door, her sister called after me, voice lower. Now, Eric, you really loved her, didn't you? I paused, hand on the doorknob. I did. I said, but she made me choose between sharing her or watching her sleep with someone else. I turned back just long enough to finish, so I picked option 3. I told her to start packing before I rearranged his smug little empire, and with that, I walked out, not just from the room, from the whole damn story. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.